Have you ever found yourself, wrestling with some technical system,
Oh, yeah. Software, maybe some equipment.
right? And you hit that wall because something that feels like it should be simple just isn't.
Uh-huh. Multiple obscure steps, maybe cryptic text you have to type in.
Exactly. And you're just sitting there thinking, man, I wish someone would just simplify this.
Definitely been there.
Well, today, we're actually taking a deep dive into exactly that kind of simplification.
Okay.
It's happening within the Logibus I/O system. There's this significant update.
Right, I heard something about that.
Yeah, they're getting rid of a core component called mapping.
Ah, mapping. Okay.
So we're going to unpack what that was, why it apparently caused so many headaches, and how removing it promises a much smoother ride for users.
Sounds good. And we have some solid info on this.
We do. Our insights are coming straight from a pretty detailed YouTube video transcript.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's titled 2025-08-17-14-05-25 for Stellan Logibus News I/O System Own Mapping.
Okay, quite specific.
It is. It's from the Meisterschulen München Landmaschinenmechanik channel.
Ah, the Meisterschulen München. Good source. They really get into the nitty-gritty.
They do. And this transcript really breaks down the old problems and the new solutions.
Excellent.
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to get the why and the how behind this big shift.
It makes sense. Understand the motivation.
Yeah, dig into the specifics of the old system's, pain points.
Right.
And then reveal the sort of elegant solutions in the new mapping-free approach. Hopefully helping you grasp the impact design decisions like this have on, well, real-world usability.
Cool. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack it then. What exactly was this mapping that was causing all the trouble for Logibus users?
Right. So in let's call it the old Logibus setup, an Übung.
Which is like an exercise or a program.
Exactly. Think of it as a complete program or exercise.
Right.
It wasn't just one single file or thing.
Okay.
It was what they referred to as a dryer pack.
A 3-pack.
A 3-pack, yeah. So each Übung actually consisted of the mapping file itself,
Okay.
a Baustein-Ventilsteuerung, which is like a specialized module for low-level valve hardware control,
Got it.
and then the Übung code, the actual program logic. And these three things lived in separate folders.
Wow, okay. Separate folders for core parts of one exercise.
Yep. And then these three elements, this dryer pack, had to be grouped inside something called a sub-application.
Like a container.
Sort of, yeah, a container for related bits. And then you accessed it from the main app using a specific ID like change type 001.
That sounds involved.
Yeah.
So what happened if users didn't get that structure exactly right? Like if they missed a piece of the dryer pack?
Well, that's where the big problems came in. The source is really clear on this.
Uh-huh.
If you say mistakenly mapped only the Übung part, the code itself,
Yeah.
and not the complete dryer pack, so missing the mapping file or
Yeah.
the ventilatoring,
Yeah.
absolutely nothing would function. Zero.
Seriously. Just total failure.
Yeah. Total failure. It basically just wouldn't run, which you can imagine led to huge troubleshooting headaches.
Oh, I bet. Trying to figure out which part of the 3-pack was missing or wrong.
Exactly. A lot of frustration because the whole system just stops dead without that perfect alignment.
And, okay, it gets even weirder,
Yeah.
right? Because Logibus was meant to be this completely visual programming environment.
That was the whole selling point. Yeah. Drag and drop, visual blocks.
But the mapping process itself actually needed textual input.
That's the paradox. Users had to physically type in PABs, things like digital input I1 or output Q1.
Manually typing paths in a visual system.
Yep. It wasn't just like inconvenient. The source calls it a break in the system.
I can see why it completely disrupts the workflow.
Totally. It's this glaring inconsistency. You're in this visual world, and then suddenly, bam, you need to type specific text strings.
That demands a whole different way of thinking just for that one task.
Absolutely. It's what you might call a modal break in the user's head. Visual programmer suddenly needs to be a text programmer.
That kind of inconsistency.
Yeah.
That's a classic design flaw, isn't it?
It really is. And it wasn't just a theoretical problem. It had real, concrete, frustrating consequences.
Like what?
Well, imagine you've built up a complex program, screens full of visual code blocks,
Okay.
and you decide, okay, I need to organize this better. I'll move this section into a new sub-application.
Sensible thing to do, refactoring.
Right. But because of the mapping, every single one of those textual paths you entered earlier
Uh-oh.
now had to be manually updated. You had to add a sub-EP prefix to every single one.
Manually. For every input and output you moved.
Every single one. And if you forgot even one,
Let me guess. Program wouldn't run.
Program wouldn't run. Again.
Wow. So just trying to keep your code tidy could break everything if you weren't incredibly careful.
Precisely. And similarly, if you added a new output, say Q2, or new input I2,
Yeah.
you had to remember to go back into the mapping and explicitly make them visible.
Another manual step to remember.
Another manual step, another chance for things to go wrong just because you forgot something. It added so much cognitive load.
So a simple refactor turns into this minefield of checking paths and visibility settings. Sounds like you're being punished for organizing.
It could certainly feel that way, and it didn't stop there. There was this issue with visualization features, too.
Right.
Like the green-white background feature. People used it a lot for visual feedback on displays, maybe for soft keys.
Right, those on-screen buttons.
Yeah. Often, you had to enter the same soft key information twice.
Twice? Where?
Once in your actual program logic, where you define what the button does,
Makes sense.
and again in the mapping file. Just redundant entry.
Double work. That's always frustrating.
Exactly. The presenter in the video explicitly said this was not particularly nice.
I bet.
And he described the whole mapping process overall as, not so comfortable for the people and musam.
Musam.
Yeah, he translated it as arduous, which tells you something.
It really does.
He even admitted that he himself, an expert, often forgot the mapping step after finishing an application.
If the expert forgets.
Right. It just shows how unintuitive or easy it was to overlook, adding to the pain point.
Okay, so that paints a pretty clear picture of the frustrations. Lots of potential errors, textual input breaking the visual flow, double work.
A whole list of things, yeah.
So after hearing all that, let's pivot. What does this all mean for the future of Logibus? How does this new system actually fix these problems?
Well, the biggest change, the absolute headline, is the complete removal of those separate folders for each part of the exercise.
Okay.
And crucially, no mapping anymore. Gone, completely gone, kaput. Now, everything related to an Übung and exercise is contained directly within it.
All in one place.
All in one place. That old triple declaration mapping exercise with valve control, it's just unified.
Okay, that sounds immediately simpler.
It is. It means users can just look at an exercise and instantly see what it does, what's inside it. Huge boost for clarity, for navigation.
So no more hunting through separate folders or needing that separate mapping file just to understand the connections.
Exactly. It's a fundamental simplification of the structure.
And what about the inputs and outputs? That textual stuff.
That's the other major improvement. Instead of those generic IX and QX blocks.
Which didn't tell you much on their own.
Right. You needed the mapping to know what IX1 actually was. Now, the new system uses blocks with specific descriptive names.
Like what?
Like Func Data Panel Button EX,
Right.
or Soft Key EX, or Logibus CX.
So the name tells you what it is.
Pretty much. If you see a Button EX block, you know immediately, okay, that's a button on a display.
And Logibus CX.
Clearly indicates a control input, like from a physical switch connected to a Logibus module.
That's a huge aha moment for usability, isn't it?
It really is. It just makes sense visually.
So where does the specific identifier go? Like which button or which input?
That's now inside the block itself. So a button block might have an object ID property inside it. A digital input block might have a Logibus input tip.
So the configuration is within the component it represents.
Exactly. Which means the name you might give the block above it, like calling it Hans or Sepp, like in the examples,
Yeah.
that becomes kind of irrelevant for function. It's just a label.
Oh,
Only the internal identifier actually matters for the connection.
that makes so much more sense. It clicks.
And what's really powerful here is that shift, moving away from generic identifiers like IX1 that meant nothing on their own,
Right?
to these context-specific ones embedded in descriptive blocks. It drastically improves readability.
Less mental gymnastics trying to remember what connects where.
Precisely. And the presenter really highlighted how beneficial this is in, say, a teaching environment.
I can imagine.
No more flipping back and forth between the code screen and a separate mapping page just to figure out what an input or output actually does.
You see it right there. Integrated.
Right there in the visual block. It
Yeah.
just streamlines the whole cognitive process.
Okay, that sounds overwhelmingly positive. Did they mention any downsides, any trade-offs at all?
They did mention one potential disadvantage, although they framed it carefully.
Yeah, which is?
The new blocks are, by nature, not as generic.
Eating.
Meaning, for example, if you are used to a generic QX output block and now you want it to specifically control something on a data panel,
Okay.
You might need to provide a bit more information within that block. Things like an address, maybe address 0, and a specific output pin, like output 1A.
So a little more configuration up front for specialized blocks.
Yeah, they described it as a small additional effort.
And how do you manage that currently? Is it easy to figure out?
Currently, the suggested workaround, the easiest way, is just to copy an existing block that's already correctly configured for what you want.
Okay, copy, paste, standard practice.
Right. It sounds like maybe a minor step back and just raw generic flexibility compared to the old way.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
For somebody used to the old system, maybe a slight adjustment.
Perhaps initially. But here's where the developer, the presenter, really emphasized the flip side.
Okay.
He called it the huge advantage: immediate error visibility.
Ah, how does that work?
So if you, say, change a block type, maybe you switch it to be a Logibus QX output,
Yeah.
and the configuration details you have inside it don't match what a Logibus QX needs.
The system flags it.
Instantly, you get a "this fits not" error right there in the development environment.
Oh, so it prevents those hidden errors that would only show up later when you try to run it.
Exactly. It stops those runtime surprises. Debugging becomes way faster because the error is caught immediately right where you made the change.
That sounds like a massive improvement over hunting for errors caused by a forgotten mapping step.
It really does. So yes, maybe a tiny bit more initial detail needed for some blocks,
But you get immediate feedback if it's wrong.
which seems like a fantastic trade-off. No more spending hours searching for why something isn't working, only to find a mapping mismatch.
Are there plans to make that configuration easier? Like auto-completion?
Good question. He mentioned that desired features, like maybe typing to get a list of valid options or syntax completion, aren't implemented yet.
Okay, so room for future polish.
Definitely. But the core direction towards much greater user feedback, much greater clarity, is very, very clear.
That immediate feedback is undeniably powerful. And when is this available? Is this coming soon?
Get this. It's very, very new.
How new?
As of the recording, it had been completed only the day before.
Wow. Like fresh off the compiler.
Pretty much. And the very first release, he mentioned an Alpha 3 version, I think. And the updated training materials were already online that day.
So people can try it right now.
Users could start experimenting with it immediately. That's a seriously rapid turnaround from finishing development to getting it out there.
That's impressive. Okay, so wrapping this up a bit, we've seen Logibus basically overhaul its I/O system,
A pretty fundamental shift, yeah.
moving away from that cumbersome, error-prone mapping process
Which caused so many headaches.
to something much more intuitive, self-contained, and visually consistent.
Everything in the block, clear naming, immediate feedback.
This really isn't just some minor technical tweak, is it? It feels like a fundamental rethink aimed squarely at user-friendliness and, well, efficiency.
Absolutely. It tackles those deep-seated frustrations we talked about head-on.
And I think the key takeaway here, the essence of this deep dive,
Yeah.
is seeing how simplifying the underlying architecture, even in these really technical systems,
Like industrial control programming.
right, how that simplification can lead to just dramatic improvements in the actual user experience.
Fewer errors, faster learning.
Makes complex stuff genuinely more accessible. It's a powerful lesson in design, really, prioritizing the user.
Well said. Thinking about how people actually interact with the system, not just the technical function.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to sort of mull over. As you go about your day, interacting with all sorts of tech, different interfaces.
Apps, professional software, maybe even physical devices.
Yeah, think about what their versions of mapping are. What are those hidden, awkward, or just non-intuitive steps that break your flow?
The things that make you stop and think, why is it like this?
Exactly. Where's the unnecessary complexity? And then think, how might a strategic simplification like the one Logibus just pulled off,
Removing that core frustrating element.
how might something like that fundamentally change how we learn, interact with, and maybe even master the technology in your own field or daily life?
Interesting question. What hidden mappings are slowing us down elsewhere?
Something to think about.